Hello, and welcome to the Poetry Pcast. It's a special day for me, and I hope for you too. I'm joined by Liam Maguire. Yes, it's a double bubble Maguire podcast today, although I should point out that we're not related. I do love it when another one of the editors sits in the driving seat to let you know what we're expecting from one of our submission periods. What is it that he's going to inspire you to write about? It's creepy crawlies. Yeah, I know. How did I let myself be talked into this? I absolutely do not like creepy crawlies. I'd not say hate, unless we're talking about spiders. Those, I really do hate. I can't go near them. And I have my mum to thank for that. Low lithium levels. She decorates my hairband with a spider. Low lithium levels. She decorates my hairband with a spider. Don't know what she was thinking, really. Now, before we head off to meet Liam and hear a really inspiring podcast, and I know I say this every time we meet a guest, but wait till you hear his enthusiasm. I just want to remind those of you on the mailing list to make sure you're reading your mails. You need to check back June and July's mails because there's important information in them and I don't want you to miss out. If you're not on the mailing list, get yourself on there pronto. There's still time for you to take action. And one last thing. For those of you watching this on video, if it's a bit choppy, do forgive me because I've just been out on a bike ride and I forgot to take my hay fever medicine before I went. So I'm going to be sniffing and sneezing throughout and have to chop the video accordingly. So apologies for that. It's very hot and hay fevery here. So back to Liam. He persuaded me that I'd really love to do a creepy crawly topic. And to be honest, I've had lots of poets tell me they're looking forward to it. So here he is to tell us all about it. Hi, Liam. It's very nice to see you again. And I believe you've been away on holiday recently.
Yes, we have been away.
Did it rain all the time? Is that why it's sort of like, oh, was that my holiday?
No, it's just so much has happened since that feels like the old train of life thundering down the tracks.
Oh, God, I know what you mean. Absolutely. Anyway, today you've come along to talk to us about creepy crawlies, and I still don't know, as I said to you, I still do not know how you managed to persuade me to do this because I cannot understand your fervour for the subject. So I'm going to hand over to you now in an attempt for you to convert me to this topic. So good luck. I look forward to
Challenge
hearing.
accepted.
I look forward to seeing how you tackle this.
Imagine a young boy aged about 8 or 9. It's his birthday, and his parents have finally agreed to buy him the pet that he so desperately wants. They take him to the pet shop, and excitedly he rushes to the place where he knows his desired animal waits. What do you imagine that animal might be? A rabbit? A gerbil? A hamster? Well, this 8-year-old boy was me, and the animal I most wanted as a pet was a praying mantis. I offer this story as a glimpse into what lies behind my love of creepy crawly haiku, a deep appreciation of creepy crawlies themselves. From the earliest age, I have been obsessed with these many-legged wonders, be they insects, spiders, woodlice, millipedes, and more. To me, the creatures that repulse so many are a source of absolute joy and fascination. I'm basically a 5-year-old that never grew up. Even today, just off camera, I have 2 praying mantises, 12 cockroaches, and a spider, and an extremely gracious wife. In this presentation, I'd like to share with you some reflections on writing creepy crawly haiku, some examples, both classic and contemporary, and a few of my own humble attempts, if that's not too self-indulgent. But before we jump in, a quick note on language. When I use the term creepy crawly, I'm broadly referring to insects, spiders, and their sort of allied species. So millipedes, centipedes, slugs, snails, woodlice, and the like. So throughout, when I reference a specific group, know that I also have all the others in mind. So with that said, let's jump in. Above the meadow stream, in the breeze over the water, mosquitoes are flowing. Above the meadow stream, in the breeze over the water, mosquitoes are flowing. Yosa Buson. Before we talk poetry, I want to address the elephant hawk moth in the room. I want to recognize that to say to you, you should write haiku about creepy crawlies because the great poets of old did, is a pretty poor argument, especially as you may not share my passion for this subject. More likely you fall into one of three categories. You might be bemused, wondering how these creatures can be fertile subjects for haiku. You might be repulsed. Perhaps these creatures make your skin crawl. You might be intrigued, interested, and willing to give it a go. My hope is that by the end, the former two might join the latter. And so to begin, let me offer you a brief defense of the creatures that I love, that so many love to hate. I have 4 brief reasons to offer you. Firstly, insects are ancient. Insects and spiders first appeared around 400 million years ago in the Devonian period, for 170 million years before the first dinosaurs walked the earth. When we look at a butterfly in flight, a ladybird on a leaf, a spider in a web, we're witnessing the result of almost 500 million years of evolution. Move over, birds. These are the true living dinosaurs. Second, insects are innumerable. Estimates vary, but it's suggested that there's around 100 million insects on Earth alive today for every one human who's ever lived. And yet, despite their sheer numbers, they are incredibly diverse. Thirdly, insects and spiders and the like are incredible. Consider these facts. A dragonfly's top speed is around 30 miles per hour, and when turning can experience up to 9 Gs. To put that into context, the average human passes out around 5 Gs. Jumping spiders can navigate elaborate mazes to find their prey, and a praying mantis has a special ear between their legs, which they use to detect the echolocation of bats so that they can avoid being eaten when flying at night. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, they are indispensable. The vast majority of the food chain that sustains us and our planet is built on the backs of these amazing creepy crawlies. And yet, depressingly, their numbers are in freefall due to the climate crisis. If humans vanished overnight, creepy crawlies would barely notice. But if they disappear, humans and all other animals will soon follow. I'm not suggesting that this brief defense will change hearts and minds, but I do hope I've managed to give you a glimpse into my love for them and why I'm so passionate about reading and writing haiku that show them off in all their glory. It's from that context that I want to share with you the following reflections about creepy crawly haiku. Praying mantis. Its wish is eaten by the ants. Praying mantis. Its wish is eaten by the ants. Jane Reichhold. My reflections on writing effective creepy crawly haiku fall under three headings. Make the creature the star, activate the reader's imagination, play with perspective. Make the creature the star, activate the reader's imagination, play with perspective. Let's look at them one at a time. My first and most important reflection for writing creepy crawly haiku would be to make the creature the star. Haiku is such a wonderfully versatile form of poetry. We can write about our encounters and moments observed in the natural world where the human poet simply melts into the background as if they were never there. It's like we're really watching a tree fall in the woods when no one is around to hear it. On the other hand, we can write about the highs and lows, the joys and trials of human life with all their simplicity and profundity. And then there's that place in the middle, right, where the two merge and overlap, the human encounter with the natural world. And I think it's in this middle point where danger awaits us when we're writing creepy crawly haiku. With this kind of haiku, there's a risk that we can use these creatures as a foil to express human sentiments. That temptation of anthropomorphizing these creatures is really close at hand. And I think that's understandable because I think one of the reasons for that is their alien nature. Because they're so different from us, we can fall into this availability heuristic where we try and understand them based on the experiences that are most familiar with our own experiences. And so cliches abound at this point. You're probably familiar with them, I'm sure. The industrious bee, the seductive spider, the vengeful wasp, the lonely ant, the dutiful snail, the treacherous scorpion. These descriptions, whilst poetic, often miss the true nature of these creatures by imposing human characteristics upon them. And so it's vital that we step back and ensure that at the heart of a haiku about creepy crawlies is the creepy crawly itself. I hope the following examples will help show you what I mean. Briefly, mine to hold, a firefly. Briefly, mine to hold, a firefly. Ilyana Stoyanova. Misty breath, a dragonfly glitters in the dawn light. Misty breath, a dragonfly glitters in the dawn light. Liam Maguire. Garden cleaner, we stop to admire the orb weaver's work. Garden cleanup, we stop to admire the orb weaver's work. Beverly Acuff Memorial. Skinny dipping, the mayfly sheds its skin. Skinny dipping, the mayfly sheds its skin. Jeff Hoagland. In each of these haiku, there's a different kind of encounter, a different moment observed and recorded. But in each of them, at the heart of the poem is the creepy crawly itself. In each of them, there's no way of getting away from the fact that this is robustly and truly a celebration of life's smallest and most diverse forms of life. The creature is at the center. It's the star. Any human experience is extra to that. And so as you go about writing your own haiku about creepy crawlies, I'd encourage you to think about not just what creature you're putting into your haiku, but why you're putting it there. How can you make the creature the star? How can you construct the line so the haiku celebrates the creepy crawly in all of its many-legged glory? Which brings me to my second reflection. Think about how we can activate our reader's imagination. Now, that might seem like rather Barry Basic advice for writing haiku, but I do think it's particularly important when writing haiku about creepy crawlies. I ask you, as a listener to consider for a moment, what's your default reaction when you see an insect? Is it fear, revulsion, apathy, joy, delight, wonder? What would you immediately reach for if you found a spider in your home? A rolled up magazine or a magnifying glass? My point is that when we talk about activating our readers' imagination, it's important to think about how we can guide them to a place they wouldn't normally go when they think about these creatures, to see and feel something they wouldn't normally see or feel. Maybe this is something that is caught rather than taught. So again, I've got a few examples to share with you that will hopefully help illustrate what I mean. With me all day, the fleeting first sight of a butterfly. With me all day, the fleeting first sight of a butterfly. Tony Williams. Mosquito larva. In a day, how many ups and downs? Mosquito larva. In a day, how many ups and downs? Kobayashi Isa. In and out of the hazy light. Emperor dragonflies. In and out of the hazy light. Emperor dragonflies. Liam Maguire. Spring rain trickling into the wasp's nest. A leaky roof. Spring rain trickling into the wasp's nest. A leaky roof. Matsuo Basho. In each of these examples, I hope you can see how the author invokes a particular feeling, a place, a moment in time, whether that's the immense gratitude of a passing encounter with a butterfly at the beginning of spring, the childlike curiosity of watching a water bug live its life, the awesome movement of a dragonfly over a hazy pond, the apprehension of water trickling, transforming a wasp's nest into a ticking time bomb. These are just my takes. Perhaps these haiku brought different experiences and emotions to mind for you. If so, more the better. Because that's the point, right? Each of these poems invites us into the haiku, to put ourselves in the poet's shoes, to see the moment through their eyes in new and fresh ways. So as you're observing insects or other creepy crawlies and thinking about haiku, when you find yourself in that moment where something's coming to you, I'd encourage you to stop and consider. How do you feel about the creature you're looking at? What emotions and feelings are coming to mind? What mood is the encounter taking place in? What's happening in front of you, around you, above you, and below you? How can you communicate that in a way that activates your reader's imagination? How can you show it to them in their mind's eye rather than just telling them what's happened? Show, don't tell. That's the backbone of all great haiku. And I believe that's especially the backbone, or maybe the exoskeleton, of great creepy crawly haiku. Activating the reader's imagination. Thirdly, play with perspective. One of the things that haiku has in common with creepy crawlies is the ability to change our perspective. We spend so much of our time seeing life from roughly 1.5 meters up, but when we encounter insects, it often requires us to look more closely, to change our height, our angle, our view, our perspective. This is something that great haiku does too. It has this amazing way of shifting mindsets in just a few words, transforming quite ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences through a shift in perspective. As you write haiku about insects and spiders, I'd encourage you to play with perspective. To show you what I mean by this, I want to take a closer look here at 2 haiku that I think do this in a masterful and very clever way. Firstly, folding the wings of a white butterfly, the garden spider. Folding the wings of a white butterfly, the garden spider. Mark Ritchie. At first, it seems to be about a white butterfly at rest. Nothing noteworthy there. But that's because all the weight is in the final line. There we discover that the subject of this haiku is a garden spider and that the theme of this haiku is death. But both the subject and the theme are presented in a fresh, perspective-shifting way. The spider is shown not as a cold-blooded killer or a monster of fear, but as a handmaiden of death, carefully folding away the butterfly's wings like a kite going back in the cupboard. You can almost see the spider gently but purposefully enshrouding the butterfly in the silk that will become its grave clothes. Through careful construction and admittedly subtle juxtaposition, the haiku moves us beyond any initial reactions of fear or disgust towards spiders and death, presenting instead a more nuanced view of nature's cycles. What makes this particularly powerful is it doesn't deny the reality of what's happening, but rather helps us to see natural grace within it. It's almost ceremonial in nature. Folding the wings of a white butterfly, the garden spider. The second example I want to focus on is one by Issa. The distant mountain reflected in his eyes, dragonfly. The distant mountain reflected in his eyes, dragonfly. I absolutely adore this haiku. I love it because of how Issa funnels our perception from the immensely large to the incredibly small. It moves from macro to micro, playing with perception all the way with each line of the poem. He begins with maybe one of the largest, grandest, and most imaginable things we can imagine, a mountain on the horizon, mighty and majestic. Next, we learn that the mountain is actually reflected. Our focus narrows. Reflected might make us think of water, a mirror, or perhaps even a window. But no, this mountain is reflected in his eyes. Our vision shifts again to something more personal, more intimate. After all, you've got to be pretty close to see the reflection in an eye. It leaves us wondering, whose eyes are we talking about? And then the final line reveals everything. But in doing so, it almost turns the haiku inside out. We're looking at a mountain reflected in the glossy compound eye of a dragonfly. What makes this work so well, I think, is the construction and progression of each line, which takes us on a journey of perception inwards and downwards. Consider how different and maybe much less effective it would be if it were written as dragonfly, reflected in its eyes, the distant mountain. I don't know what that makes you think, but for me, it's suddenly a bit dull, a bit boring, a bit pedestrian. It's all tell and no show. If we start with the dragonfly, we've got nowhere else to go but up. Issa's construction, on the other hand, begins with the mountain and takes us on a journey of discovery that culminates in the brilliant perception-shifting encounter in the final line. It's thoughtful, it's surprising, it invites multiple readings, everything great haiku should be. And so when writing haiku about insects and other creepy crawlies, consider not just what you can see, but what the insect can see. Not just where it is in your environment, but where you are in its environment. How do you perceive it within your context? How does it perceive you? Try different angles, not just poetically, but visually. Get down on your hands and knees and try and see the world from its point of view. Then think about how you can capture that moment to portray it to your reader. I'm not suggesting here we try and be novel for novelty's sake, but rather that we look at things differently, playing with perception to surprise and delight ourselves, not just potential readers, with the moments that we capture, offering a fresh take on some of life's oldest and maybe most misunderstood life forms. The distant mountain reflected in his eyes. Dragonfly. Finally, on this point, if you'd like to explore more perspective-shifting haiku, I recommend listening to episode 44, Crawling with Insects, by the Haiku Chronicles podcast. It's available online. It features a recording of a haiku reading by Jeff Hoagland, and it's rich with delightful and often humorous examples of perspective-shifting insect haiku. I've included the link and several of Jeff's haiku in my notes. Left out in the rain, a house spider. Left out in the rain, a house spider. Liam Maguire. To these reflections, I'd like to add a few practical tips for finding your creepy crawly muse. Firstly, go outside. Now, this may seem obvious, but it's very difficult to write haiku about these incredible creatures if you're not spending time looking for them. If you live in the Northern Hemisphere, now is the perfect time. Gardens, parks, rivers, lakes, woodland, the garden shed, the cupboard under the stairs, these are all great places to start looking. If mobility is a challenge for you, you can check out some of the great insect documentaries on YouTube or streaming platforms, visit a bug house at the zoo, or even just thumb through a book at your local library for inspiration. Secondly, I'd encourage you to slow down. It can be tempting to try and see as many different creepy crawlies as possible when gathering inspiration for your writing. But writing about these creatures really benefits from taking time to slowly observe your subject. We talked earlier about invoking a particular mood or feeling through your writing. And this comes from understanding what the creature is doing. Try and work out what that dragonfly is doing as it flies around. Is it looking for a mate? Is it hunting? Is it driving off rivals? Watch that bumblebee. Why is it visiting those flowers? What's it doing when it gets there? Even that annoying wasp at a picnic has something interesting to be discovered about it if we slow down and take our time. Thirdly, get your hands dirty. Go into the woods and roll some logs. Turn over some stones in your garden. Try pond dipping. Obviously, ensure you leave the environment as you found it and check your local restrictions first. But getting hands-on exposure, not only to creepy crawlies in different habitats, but also different kinds of them, is a great way to break down your assumptions and find inspiration. Fourthly, move beyond those cliches we mentioned earlier. There's much more to spiders than arachnophobia. There's more to butterflies than metamorphosis, more to bees than honey. Rather than opting for the path of least resistance, try and find that fresh perspective in your writing. Finally, and maybe most importantly, be creative. By getting outside, slowing down, getting your hands dirty and immersing yourself in their world, you can gain new insights that will enable you to write fantastic haiku, celebrating these wonderful creatures in creative and fresh ways. Cartography, lines in the frost left by the snails. Cartography, lines in the frost left by the snails. Melissa Dennison. So as I close, I'd like to pull some of these threads together to try and answer the question that was there from the beginning. Why write creepy, crawly haiku? Well, perhaps in the final analysis, size really does matter. I believe tiny creatures like these and the compact form of poetry that we love complement each other beautifully. The way that haiku encourages careful observation mirrors exactly what we need to truly see and understand these small creatures in their world, to ensure that they are the star. Just as we catch a fleeting glimpse of an insect in nature, a butterfly drifting past, a beetle disappearing under a leaf, haiku captures these brief, precious moments in just a few words in a way that activates our imagination. The seasonal references, or kigo, central to haiku, naturally align with the life cycle of these creatures. In fact, many insects and spiders are themselves traditional seasonal references in haiku. The precision that our poetry demands helps us focus on those telling details. An ant struggling with its load, a praying mantis pivoting its head, rather than getting lost in unnecessary description. But maybe most of all, most wonderfully, haiku helps us transform these often misunderstood creatures into sources of genuine wonder and delight, inviting both writers and readers to see them through fresh eyes. Defying gravity and everything else, fireflies. Defying gravity and everything else, fireflies. Jeff Oakland.
Thank you very much, Liam. Still not understanding why. How old did you say you were when your parents took you to the pet shop for the first, was it praying mantis? Oh, good Lord.
8.
8.
What I
What?
left out of that story was the crickets that I also had to buy to feed the praying mantis.
Oh. Oh, you have very understanding parents, and how you
Yes.
managed to find a wife that would put up with what? Two praying mantis, 12 cockroaches, and a spider. I really do not know. You were very lucky. But as I said, I enjoyed your enthusiasm. It was a really great presentation. I loved it to pieces. And I loved some of the poems that I'd forgotten about, particularly the two that struck me were, I think it was Basho's Wasp's Nest.
Mhm.
Love that. I mean, I love that one, regardless of the fact it's about wasps. That I don't really mind wasps. I mean, they've got a job to do, so get on and do it. As long as you don't make a nest in my roof, you're fine. And then that one, Isa, with the dragonfly.
Oh, yeah.
So intimate. So intimate. Beautiful. Just the thought of how close. I mean, maybe he wasn't. Maybe it was one of those sort of desk haiku, which, people write. Just the thought he'd studied the dragonfly so intimately that the idea had come to him. Just lovely. And I took some notes while you were going on. I was very pleased that you brought up the idea of the insects themselves being seasonal references in
Mhm.
Kigo. It struck me as you were talking that, one insect certainly will turn up in your environment at certain times of the year, maybe. So that's a clear seasonal reference. But also, I'm guessing, and you can put me right if I'm wrong here, that as they develop, the cocoon stage or whatever, the early
Mhm.
baby stages through to the development, the adult stages, that if you pick an insect that has those developmental stages, you can also give us a meaningful seasonal reference. I think people are too easy just to chuck in a spring day,
Yes.
and it means you know, it doesn't mean as much as if you use something to set a tone. And you've talked about the feelings that insects may engender in people as well, which
Mm.
I think it was very interesting. And the other thing that struck me, and again, put me straight if I'm wrong, but this is a topic where we could really use specificity. That's such a hard word
Yes.
to do. I mean, you've given us examples of the orb weavers, the mayflies, the idea of the praying mantis. Possibly you could look at the bees and look at the different types of bees if you know enough about them. I know the odd one or two that I could pull out and talk about. So that would be very interesting. And also, you used some lovely examples of butterfly poems. But then again, if we know what the butterfly is, it might be nice to add a bit of color through the image
Yeah,
of the
I agree.
butterfly too, which would be nice. What else did I write down as I was going on? Yes, I think you covered everything else brilliantly. Or I was going to say to you that you mentioned at the beginning that there were three stage, people sort of fell into three stages. So I'd just like to say I'm in the last one that you mentioned, which was interested and willing willing to give it a go, even
Excellent.
if I'm thoroughly appalled by the idea. But I'm one of the few because when people saw the our sort of agenda of submissions, I got so many emails saying, "Oh, I look forward to that one. I'm really looking forward to putting that one in place." So, no pressure, people. Liam is one of the editors, so he will be reading the submissions quite closely. So don't let him down after such a brilliant presentation.
Promise to be kind.
Oh, aren't you sweet? Again, thank you very much. Two last things I wanted to say to you. Just to let you know, I do love a ladybird. I'm quite happy to let ladybirds or ladybugs
Oh, yes.
wander all over my hands. I found them fascinating from the get-go. And the other thing I was going to say is if I'm ever round your way, I must pop in and meet the praying mantis. I mean, I've seen them in the zoo and they are absolutely fascinating. I'm not sure that I want to get much closer than being in the zoo, but they are really fascinating creatures, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, but you can leave the cockroaches well out of my way, thank you. I cannot understand that one. And then, what is the spider?
Well, the spider is actually, this will give you also a little glimpse into what my long-suffering wife has to put up with. It's one I found in the garden that I brought into the house. But it's quite
Okay.
an interesting spider. I'm fairly confident that it is what's called a raft spider, which is one that lives close to water and actually like runs across the surface of water and even
Yeah.
hunts fish. But I need to get a bit bigger before I can positively ID it.
So I think that sort of covers everything I wanted to say at the end of that. Apart from a massive thank you, it was brilliant. Thank you very
Oh,
much.
my
Your
pleasure.
your enthusiasm really shone through. So I look forward to, and I know you will look forward to seeing the produce that our wonderful listeners will bring us in the topics. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Liam. It was great.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for letting me share my sort of nerdy 5-year-old passion.
It was our pleasure, honestly. Thank you. Well, did you enjoy that? Did you recognize yourself in one of the three groups Liam spoke about? The bemused observer, wondering how these creatures are fertile ground for haiku. The repulsed observer, those creatures make your skin crawl. Or the intrigued and willing to give the creepy crawly submissions a go observer. I think I'm somewhere between the second and the third type, as you might have gathered. Hopefully by now you're in the willing to give it a go group. So let me remind you of Liam's top tips. Go outside or watch, listen to documentaries about creepy crawlies. And don't forget, Liam recommended a podcast from Haiku Chronicles, and I'll put the link in the show notes for you so you can follow that. Slow down, take the time to look around you, check out the environment the creepy crawlies enjoy. And I have to tell you that on my bike ride this morning, I was rather enjoying going downhill, the coolness of it. And I'm afraid I may have ingested a few of those creepy crawlies, so apologies for that. Get your hands dirty. I did that the other day and found an earwig on my sofa later in the day. Oh, I forgot to mention earwigs. They're ones that I really can't abide. Move beyond the cliches. Be creative. For example, Liam gave you some ideas of playing with perspective in the podcast. I'd love to see, and I'm sure he would love to see some more from you. And I'm going to add a few more. I anticipate that we'll get lots of poems about butterflies, moths, spiders, and dragonflies. So why not make yours special? And if you can, be specific about the type of creature you're writing about, like Liam did with his Emperor Dragonfly, or another of the poets who wrote about the orb weaver spider. Or perhaps you know the different bees, honey bees, bumblebees, carpenter bees. You get the idea. So now the pressure's on you. It's time to think about your creepy crawly haiku, which we'll ask you to submit from the 1st to the 15th of August in 2025. And of course, if you've missed that opportunity, do check out the submissions diary. It's a drop down from the submissions on the website. And see what we're up to. There's always the video prompt on YouTube. Well, I say always, but not in December. But otherwise, it's there. And go and check out the one that's running this month on our YouTube page. You can write as many poems as you like for that. But, and this is very, very important, leave them in the comments section under the video. That's the only way to submit for video prompts. Okay. Thanks so much for joining the Maguire clan for a bit of creepy crawlies. And of course, mega thanks once again to Liam for his presentation. Wasn't he great? So until next time, keep writing. Oh, and don't forget, you can revisit this podcast on YouTube if you're only listening to it. And on YouTube, you'll see the slides. Otherwise, they're going to be available through Buy Me a Coffee. Ciao!